it's time we learn how to handle a form submission. And then we will cover a few other things that I think will make this episode a little bit more exciting. Now let's see what I mean. Today we will try to build a task management app, which I know it's a little cliche, but whatever, let's just build it. If we take a look at our code, we see two card components, which has a slot and a prop title. Let's take a look inside, and we see that we are passing a content as prop, and we discussed that we can do it with slots, and let's actually try to do it. Let's replace it with slot, and now we have a duplication and it will break our code, and it's a good time to use name slots, and we can do it like so. We can give it a name, title, and this is a name slot. We don't need to give it a name because it will be our default slot. Now let's see how we can use this name slot in our card component. It's really easy. We just need to do template and specify its name with the pound symbol followed by the name of the slot, like so, and we can pass the content. Now we no longer need this prop. We can remove it. Let's remove it from our card component, and let's repeat the same thing for our second card. The content will be completed, and we don't need this, and that's how we can use name slots. Now let's scroll down. Here we see an array of tasks, and the tasks are objects containing an ID, a name, and the status, which is true or false in this case. And by using these checkboxes, we will update their status and move them between these two lists. So I think we can use computed properties or to separate our to-do or completed lists. So let's do that. It will be computed, and we can do it by filtering our tasks. Since it's a ref, we need to access it by a value and then filter. And for to do, we just need where the completed is false. So task completed. Now let's create one for our completed tasks, and it should be quite similar, so let's just copy it. And the only difference is just we don't need this. Now we should have two list items for our to-do and completed tasks. To render our list items, we can use the V for directive, which is used for iterating or looping through arrays or objects, and the syntax is item in items, and item is the name we give to our individual items. So in this case we can give it a name of task, and the items, the list we want to iterate through, and it's the to-do list in this case. And now we have access to this task item. To display its name, we can do task name and save it. We should have two list elements, and let's repeat the same for our completed tasks. Task in completed. By the way, we can use the same name because this is out of scope of this v4, so it's fine. And task make, and now we should have just one. Yes. And you might think that we might have passed our to-do or completed list items as props, and you are correct, but we will need to listen for events on these elements, and if we extract them to their own components, it will break our code because of some concepts we have not yet covered. So for this episode we will repeat ourselves a bit, but in the future we will refactor it. So yeah, let's just stick to this for now. And Right now let's try to display the appropriate checkboxes. Right now this should be checked, so let's see how we can do that. On checkbox we have the checked attribute, and we can give it a boolean value as our completed property. Let's see, task.completed, but first we need to bind them, and if we save it, this should be checked, yes. And now we should probably add an event for moving or updating the completed status. So let's do that, on, and for inputs, checkboxes, we can listen for change events, change, and what it should do, it should basically change the value to the opposite. Let's do that. The task completed, and we'll just copy and paste it here, and it should work. Yeah, we have a problem here. So this is a common problem if we don't use a key element on our list items, because Vue has no way of identifying which element has changed. So to fix this, we will just add a key, and it should be a unique identifier. And for our tasks, I think we can use this ID property, task.id, and let's copy it to our other card, and it should work. Yes, yeah, but right now we have this empty list, and I've already prepared an empty list component to show if we don't have any list items. So let's first import it, and now if we can display this empty component first for to-do list if we don't have any to-do items, and for that we can use if directive, and it accepts a condition, and the condition if for displaying this, let's first give it a false, see what happens, and as you can see it just doesn't render this code block. So to render it, we should give it a true value, or to do that linked. We can use this if we have any items in our to-do list, it will display, and if not, we will display this empty component, and we will give it a we else, which is if and we else, like so. And we can use this for our second card. The condition for this should be completed dot linked, like so. So if we toggle this out, as you can see this list is empty, but if we move something there, because it has linked, this condition is true and it is rendering this. Let's see if it works for our to-do list, and it does. Now let's see how we can use our form to create new tasks. First of all, let's create a new variable to hold the value of our input. So I think we can name it new task. It should be reactive, and the initial value will be an empty string. So to bind our input to this variable in Vue, we can use vModel and the variable, like so. And what does vModel do? It does, behind the scenes, it's binding the value to new task, and whenever it changes with the input event, it just updates the new task's value to event target.value. So it does this. So vModel is just a shorthand for this. so we should use this. Now let's see how we can submit our form. We have this submit event, and we want to handle it in our script, so we should create a function. I think we can create a create function, and since submitting this form will reload our page and we would prevent its default behavior in script, we can just simply access a modifier which is prevent, and it should do the exact same thing. And so let's create our create function, and we can quickly alert the value of new task, see what's happening. Create a random value, create, and yes, it's working. So let's try to create a new task, and since it's an array, we can just push a new value to it. Push, and it's an object. We should give it an ID, and for ID we can use the length of this array and increase it by 1. So let's do that. Value length plus 1. So, and for name we will use our new task variable, and for the completed status it will be false. So let's give it a try. Random task. Let's submit our form. As you can see, it's added to our to-do list, but our input is not cleared, so let's quickly do that. And it's pretty easy. We just need to set our new task variable to an empty string, and this should do the job. Random task. And yes, today we learned how we can use named slots, how to render list items, how to use vModel, and then how to handle a form submission. In the next episode we will try to refactor this and then create our custom events. And I hope the explanation was clear and you enjoyed it. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next one.